Buyer beware. That's the rule here in North Carolina. During your due diligence period, it's critical to get a home inspection before you buy. I sat down recently with Will King of High Tide Inspections to walk through the process and point out what buyers should be watching for, whether it's minor issues or major concerns. Buyer beware. Wow. That's an ominous expression, isn't it? Just sounds very, very intimidating. But in North Carolina, it's something very unique to our real estate transactions. And we're going to have another video focusing on that here in the near future. But here's the net of what that really means. You need a home inspection. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend Will with High Tide Inspections. Will, come on in, my friend.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, come on in, have a seat. How nice for me to say have a seat, because you arranged for this inspection location. So you should be saying welcome to me, right?
Welcome.
So tell me, what's your background? How did you get into this business?
It's kind of a windy path.
Yeah.
Frank. I moved to Western North Carolina because I wanted to be a whitewater guide.
Ooh.
And so I spent about 15 years working on the river.
Wow.
And in that time, I ended up meeting a nice young lady. We hit it off. At the time, I had sold my house and was living in my truck by the river.
Yeah. With the van?
With a van.
The truck
It did have a camper top in that. And of course, we hit it off in that summer at the end.
Yeah.
Annie, my wife, says, "Are you planning to live in this truck forever?" And Frank, I think we both know the answer to that.
Yeah.
And so, but that made me start thinking I need to do something else. So I went back to school.
Yeah.
Before I was a whitewater guide, and before I, and even during the winter, I would work various construction jobs. So framing, decking, I was plumber's helper and electrician's helper. And I spent a lot of time on job sites. I really loved the work, but it just wasn't what I was going to do for a living. So I went back, got a teaching degree and started teaching. And during the summers, I would both work the river and do construction type jobs.
Yeah.
When it was time for me to leave the classroom, I really enjoyed the education part of it, but decided I wanted to educate folks about their homes instead of about science, which was what my license area was.
Yeah, very good. Very, very, very interesting. What's involved in being, a home inspector? How do you know you're dealing with the legit home inspector?
Good question. So home inspectors are licensed through the state. It's actually through the Department of Insurance and the fire marshal. And so what is required is some, let's call it book work, but it's online education. It's like 120 hours of that. And then there's some in-person courses you have to, or in-person classes you have to take. And I believe it is 60 hours of that. And once you go through that process, there is a state mandated test you take. I forget how many questions it is. It takes about 4 hours. And then once you pass the test, there's licensing fees and that sort of stuff. But then you're licensed. You can always look up a person's license through the state website.
We've made an offer. Our client has made an offer on a house, and the realtor's advised, we need a home inspection. So you get contracted. Walk us through what you do. What are you looking for in a home inspection?
So home inspections, as you know, some your viewers may not, generally happen during the due diligence period, right? And we try to get in there pretty soon during that time, because you want to have buyers know if there's any issues in the home and what needs to be fixed and that sort of stuff. And so what happens is when a realtor or buyer contacts me, the state requires we have a contract that dictates what all we're going to look at during the inspection, and then also what that's going to cost.
Okay.
And so as a buyer, you first make sure you sign the contract.
Right.
And then what I do for a home inspection is ultimately, it's like taking your house to the doctor for a checkup.
Yeah. Okay.
It is a non-invasive visual inspection. So we don't fix things. We don't poke holes in the walls.
Well, let's start off. We're talking about doors. Here's an example of something you'll look at with doors.
One of the things we do as part of our standard of practice is we make sure all doors and windows are open, or are able to open, and they don't stick. That's one of those topics that can be a minor issue that needs adjustment or something a little more serious. And again, I don't diagnose that, but it's something that would end up on the report. So the first thing I would do to check out a door is I would try to open it. And that one, as you can tell, sticks.
A little tight.
And if you kind of back up a little bit, you can see that there's a gap here.
Yep.
And then no gap. My suggestion in my report would say, let's get a contractor out here to look at it and make sure that everything is right, if the door just needs adjustment, or if maybe we need to have someone look at the structure of the foundation and see if it's settling and how serious that is.
If we had a big crack in the wall, it'd be pretty clear or a good indication that may have a foundation problem.
Cracks in walls are one of those things that can be a sign of something more serious, or it can be a sign of just not great installation of the drywall.
Yeah.
When you find cracks that are surrounding edges of doors or openings in walls, that makes it a little more concerning and something that you definitely want to get checked out. For instance, if you can see, there is a crack in this wall, and it's not very big.
Oh, yeah.
But it's something that maybe would cause the defect that is in the report to escalate to have someone for sure check it out.
All right, so you've brought me over to the hallway. You had another crack here you wanted to show us. What's going on here?
And so if you can see this little crack in the drywall, and this is on the corner of a wall.
Right.
And you can see the crack. It's right here.
Yep.
And it kind of follows all the way up. Well, you would think that that's a big issue because it follows the whole length of the wall.
Right.
But the chances are that when they installed this, they didn't get enough drywall mud over
Yeah,
this.
okay.
And there's a corner that goes into the drywall.
Right.
And this piece needs to be mudded across and sanded.
Yeah.
This is not a crack that I would be specifically concerned with.
Really just cosmetic.
Just a cosmetic crack,
Okay.
generally.
What about ceilings?
So ceilings are something I definitely pay attention to. I'm looking for things like water stains because that can indicate a roof leak or a plumbing leak. And sometimes that has been fixed and sometimes it hasn't. It just means I'm going to investigate further.
Okay.
Now, lots of times folks will come in and there was popcorn on a ceiling and they will scrape it off because they like the appearance of it.
Right.
And when you look at the ceiling without proper light in there, man, it looks really smooth.
Yeah, it does.
But if you add a little light to it, sometimes defects will show up in there.
See, you would never notice that unless you put a flashlight on it.
That's true. This is not something that I would probably put in my report.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a cosmetic.
It's cosmetic.
Defect. And you could, if that is something that bothers you, you could have someone come in and scrape it or mud it and fix it, but it's not structural.
Yeah.
And or a safety issue, which is the thing that I focus our inspections on.
What about cabinets?
Cabinets.
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So as part of our inspection, we check the cabinets. Cabinets are a pretty major cost if you have to replace them all.
Yeah.
And so what I do in my inspection, and as part of our standard of practice, is I make sure all the doors open correctly, make sure the hinges aren't held up or binded in any way. I make sure the drawers open properly and the handles are on, but also make sure they're attached to the wall. Can you follow me over here?
Okay.
Can you see that there's a gap here? So it's really small at the bottom.
Yep.
And then a little larger at the top. So this cabinet, although not coming off the wall right now, is not as secure as it should be. So that is something that would be in our report. But quite frankly, to fix this is not a major issue.
They probably missed the stud.
Missed a stud maybe. But it is something that I would say, hey, let's get this checked out. Let's have somebody evaluate it.
Right.
But what you don't want is your cabinet to come off the wall.
Right, exactly. All right, so we were talking about ceilings, and now I see something interesting up here.
Yeah, so one of the things I would look at as an inspector is if there's a spot on the ceiling.
Yeah.
I would want to look around above that to ensure that I can get a good idea of what is causing it. And in fact, if you pan over here with me, there's another area.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And if you take that light away, it's not super.
Boy, that is amazing. Yeah, you would never notice that unless you put a flashlight on it.
And so I've been in the attic space of this home, and I can see where there is stains on the roofing members, the roof joist, that indicate that at some point they've had a leak in this home, probably from the roof, and it's right where, according to the structure of the attic structure, the roof structure, it looks like it's where a valley comes into a plain roof, and that's very often a place where things will leak. But the stain is an indicator for me to look further, and then so I know who to tell our client who should evaluate this issue.
All right, so we've stepped outside and we're here at these front steps. What are some things you look for?
Steps are the biggest place that folks have injuries in a home. One of the requirements for steps is that they have to be spaced evenly. There's a very small variance in the height of the steps. So the first thing I do is I walk them, and then I put a ruler on to make sure that you're not going to catch your toe when you're walking up them. Handrails are a huge thing for steps. We always make sure that the handrails are solid. And so when you look at this one,
It's wiggling.
it's wiggling. Now, a little wiggle is normal. But when you do a little more investigation, you start looking down here,
Yeah, I can see it.
and it looks like it's starting to rot down
Yeah, I
there.
got some dry rot.
In our report, I would say we need to have that evaluated for sure, and mostly for safety reasons. Yeah, so one thing folks don't think about when they think of a home inspection, they think of home inspectors looking only at the home itself.
Right.
But we really look at mostly all of the features that are around the home. And a driveway is one of those things that we kind of need to pay particular attention to. As an inspector, I really look at where's the water coming from,
Right.
and then where's it going. And so in this driveway, you can look, and if you look at kind of the staining in the driveway, you can see that water's coming from
Sort of
the
hard to
house,
see everybody, but
and it's moving this
yeah.
way. And so the one thing people don't think about what caused this crack.
Yeah.
And so as the water comes through here, it can run down in this crack and affect the slab of the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in this home, you can see that it's run through here.
Let's see if we can see that. Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah, so you
there's
got
a
water
void back
underneath
there.
the driveway.
Yeah, you can tell that this particular part of it has been displaced, probably because someone backed their car over it, which is heavy, and it has dropped into the ground a little bit.
Interesting. While it's not the foundation of the house, you're on the driveway every day.
Right, you
And
are.
it-
And
and it
if
will-
the car goes through there, it's a problem.
Yes. All right. So we're in a garage here.
Yeah.
And you don't always think about looking at a garage. So what are some of the things you can't do, you know?
Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about limitations. So as we mentioned before, as part of the procedure or standard of practice for home inspectors, we don't move personal items. If we're not able to access it, we just tell you that we can't access it. Remember, it's a visual inspection, but it's really important as a buyer that that your inspector is able to see all the walls, have access to the HVAC system, your electrical panel, all your plumbing, to your attic space, and then also the crawl space, because that's where the details come in. We talked before about cracks in drywall. Well, cracks also occur in things like brick.
Right.
And so this is a CMU concrete masonry unit wall,
Okay.
which is very common in both crawl space and in basement structures. And as you look at this, man, there's an opening in the window or in the wall,
Yeah.
this window, and we would want to make sure we could see all of the corners here.
Yeah.
But as you start looking, the homeowner here has a lot of things in the way
Yeah.
that you can't see.
Right.
Now, I happen to know this homeowner, so I'm going to peel back some of these
Okay.
life jackets and see if we can show you what we would have missed here. And so, if you can,
Yep.
and I'm going to shine a light on that so you can really see it. And so if you look
Yeah,
right
there's
there,
a crack all the way down. They can see it.
yeah, all the way down, and it kind of starts at this window. That is an issue that a contractor or an engineer may not think is such a big issue. But as a home inspector, that is something that I would want my client to know about.
Looking at the insulation, what is something common that some home improvement people have done with insulation that's wrong?
The code, and again, I'm not a code inspector, and you'll never hear me talk about code in my report, but part of the building code now that is any garage space that may have a car parked in it needs to be fire separated. What that means, and fire separation is not that hard to do, well, as you're building, but ultimately you need a fire resistant material such as drywall
Right.
in separating the living space from the garage space. And in this case, this home is not that way because it was built before that was required
Okay.
in the code. And so as a home inspector, it's going to be in the report that it's not fire separated, but it will also mention that this home was built before it was required.
Yeah, good point.
And so you could come in and have someone separate it from fire.
Right.
But now you've also got some things that are kind of in the way.
Right.
Things like telecommunications cables, and things,
Right.
which can be moved.
Right.
And it can still be fire separated. I don't know that I've mentioned this, but almost everything in a home can be fixed.
Another thing with insulation, a do-it-yourselfer might think that you'd want this covered, that the backing would actually be down, and that would be reversed, wouldn't it?
The uncovered insulation should always be pointed to the outside.
To the outside.
In general, what you can think about is that brown paper on
Right.
on some insulations is a vapor barrier.
Okay.
And vapor barriers go in between the space that is being conditioned with the HVAC air, where the air conditioning
Yeah.
is heating, and the outdoor unconditioned space. So this is actually right for this insulation. It just needs some fire separation.
Yeah. I think you've probably seen insulation done in reverse, haven't you? Yeah. Because you would assume when you put it on that you'd put it right on the studs, but that's backwards.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
That paper actually goes on the studs the other way.
Other way.
Right, so that it's facing the conditioned space. What can happen if you don't do it that way is that as unconditioned air meets conditioned air, the dew point changes. And so we're thinking more about weather, and condensation can form.
Yeah.
When condensation forms, it's liquid water, and that can affect the structure of the floor joist and underlying structural materials. With the electrical panel, that's a main safety part of the home, right? The electrical panel and the electrical system is a fire hazard if it's done incorrectly. Now, most are done correctly.
Yeah.
Now, with this case, it would be very hard for me to inspect this panel because of all the things that are in the way.
Yeah.
Right? By code, there's and again, I'm not a code inspector, but by code, you have you're supposed to have 3 feet away from the panel so that you can access this thing.
Ah, okay.
Now, even though in this case, I would not pull this panel off the electrical panel because of safety reasons for
Right.
me. But there are some things you can look at in this panel just by opening the door. And so one of the things that electrical panels require is that all the breakers match the name of the manufacturer
interesting.
of the panel. And
Interesting.
So that's because the underwriter laboratories certify these things to be fire safe and to be safe. And they only test them with the breakers that are made for that panel. When you look at this one, you can tell that the writing on this one is different than the writing on the rest of them, as well as that one.
Huh.
So what's happened is there's been some repair work probably
Right.
in this panel, and they didn't have the same name breaker or same manufacturer, and so they just put another one of matching amperage in there. But that's something that would appear on the report. Now, this is something I would refer to an electrician, but ultimately switching out a breaker for an electrician is not a major issue.
So Will, we're outside and we're talking about cracks again.
Yeah. We're on the other side of the wall of the crack we just discussed under the window in that CMU wall for our garage. And the point I want to make is that even though maybe there's visual blockage to some parts of the home, you can still pick up on things, which is why we ask other people to evaluate it. In this case, I don't know if you can see this crack that is running right here. That matches the one that is on the inside.
It does, doesn't it?
And so if I'm able to see the crack that's on the inside, I would add this crack to my report with that one. But if I was not able to see that other one, I would ask for someone to evaluate this crack.
So hey, we're sitting right here at an HVAC, and this is interesting. Looks like a nice cover, but is that to code? I mean, is that normal or?
HVAC units, they need areas around it so that they're able to to intake air.
Yeah.
Right. This one is right on the border. You need about 2 feet of clearance around the AC unit, and if you look here, it's not quite 2 feet.
Right.
Now, that being said, I feel like this one would be able to bring in air from other places.
Sure.
And so, since we're here in, let's call it a wooded lot,
Yeah.
I can imagine they put this over there to keep leaves and sticks and stuff out of the AC
right.
unit, which is going to increase the longevity of that unit. You want to make sure you have plenty of air intake into the HVAC unit. So, Frank, this is a pretty nice deck space, outdoor space. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There are some things, though, about it that I would probably want to inform my clients about. But to start with, the deck is kind of low. Wood that is really close to the ground surface, or what we call the grade, is more prone to decay and rot than deck surfaces that are about 4 inches above that grade.
Ah, okay.
Water, as it rains, can bounce up onto it.
Right.
And so that is something I would bring the attention to for my clients, even though there's not any sort of rot that I see here. If we look at the deck surface, though, that is something that is a safety issue. First of all, you can step, if deck boards are rotten, you can step through them and hurt your ankle or break your leg or something. But also things like splinters. For small children, is a big deal. Sometimes people buy houses and try to fix them up and then sell them. But one thing they will do sometimes is paint over things that are really an issue.
Yes.
And so if we look at this deck surface, this is, in my mind, one of those things that has kind of been hidden.
I see it.
So if you look here, you can go right through that thing. In fact, if you step on it, you can see that that's not necessarily structurally sound.
Right.
If you look here, over time, that may send you some splinters. Not the whole deck is that way, just portions of it.
Just portions of it.
So if you're a buyer and you're looking at a home, make sure that you're paying attention not only to the appearance of it, but also things that may be an issue that you would have to replace.
We moved over here. We're in the corner of a house, and we're looking at some gutters.
Very often when you have a roof line where a valley terminates into a gutter, it's very easy for those to clog. You want to make sure that you keep your gutters clear, mostly because if water overruns the gutters, not only can it affect the siding or any structure that's under it, like steps, but also it can run to the foundation area and cause you foundation issues. So it's really important. I think I mentioned before, major part of my job is to find out where the water's coming from and then where it goes next. And so in this case, they've got a little, let's call it flashing, but it's ultimately a guard to keep the water from coming over. But I would want to look for other things to make sure that it's doing its job correctly. When you look at these steps, they look okay.
Yeah.
They don't bend when you move.
All right.
They're pretty solid. What about this?
Whoops.
You know, we already talked about handrails,
right,
and how important they are for the safety of traversing stairs. And if you really start looking at this handrail, they've had some water damage here. I would imagine, and again, I would have someone else come out here and assess this to make sure it's true, but I would be willing to bet that if I were to start looking around in this area, I would probably find more issues due to water. You don't have to look very far to see that there's a gap in the siding here. When siding installers put this on correctly, it should be flush. And this is just not the case with this. And so as wood gets wet, it swells. And so as an inspector, I would want to poke around and make sure that all the structure on the inside, if I can access it, is also solid and sound. Now in our report, I would point this out as a way that water could enter the structure of the home, and then I would ask a contractor or a siding installer to come and evaluate this to ensure that the structure of the home has not been affected.
Well, Will, I just really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through what's involved with the home inspection. And as you can see, this little whitewater rafter and has really turned things around, and he's come a long way, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for having me, Frank. I've really enjoyed talking to you about home inspections. I really love what I do, and I really do like educating my clients about either their home they own or one they're planning to buy.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks.